members are eligible to vote and ask questions. I ask that you keep questions limited to the scope of this position. Limit questions to one per person, and please refrain from making derogatory remarks, personal attacks. When asking questions, please use the microphone at the front of the auditorium. We will now move on to candidate presentations and questions.
I want to call into question some recently added members to the 3rd District ATC at their meeting on Tuesday. Although the meeting was noticed for 24 hours, it was not placed on the agenda that they would be voting members in as per ATC rules. I said, although the meeting was noticed for 24 hours, so I'm calling into question new members that were added on Tuesday to the 3rd District DTC meeting. The meeting was noticed, but as per DTC rules, it wasn't on the agenda that they were going to vote new members on. And also, I'm unable to verify whether they had a quorum in attendance at that time. I'd be happy to read out the rule if you'd like me to, or...
I am aware of that complaint. There's also another complaint in question. At the end of the day, I've spoken with both candidates. We are moving forward using the TTC roster that we have. Both candidates should have a copy of it. I can provide one if they don't. And we will continue the vote to not disenfranchise anyone who has come out tonight. Should there be any complaints, we will deal with them after that. So again, moving on to candidate presentations and questions. The candidates will present in alphabetical order. Without further ado, Carrie Rowland, the floor is yours.
Fellow Democratic Town Committee members and members of the public. It's nice to see full house here. What an exciting exercise in democracy we are experiencing tonight, and I truly am honored to stand before you to express my desire to be Milford's next mayor. I am sure that many of you have entered City Hall tonight knowing exactly who you want to vote for, and I respect those decisions. I have said to many of you that I would never hold a negative judgment for verbalizing your vote. In fact, I expect that you are thinking about the many aspects and complexity of this decision. Please vote with both your head and your heart. For some of you, this may make the decision even more difficult because your head and heart may not be in exact alignment. But I want you to sincerely know that if this is a difficult decision for you personally, I respect you no matter the outcome of the vote tonight. Let's take away the people running around and just look at the two concepts being offered. I'm offering the power of incumbency versus just an interim. The power of incumbency is an incredible thing. Do you know that in 2022, the incumbent win rate at the federal level was 98%? The state executive level was 94%, state legislature, 96%, and at the municipal level, incumbents have a 90% success rate. These statistics can be found through a simple Ballotpedia search. But why are these success rates so high? Well, money. Incumbents are able to raise more campaign contributions than their challengers, and this results in the incumbent's ability to outspend challengers by a ratio of more than 2-to-1. Also, name recognition. Incumbents are better known to voters than are their challengers. Incumbents have opportunities to participate in highly visible activities that are covered by local newspapers, local television, on social media. For example, ribbon cuttings. Little League opening day, which is right around the corner, the nonprofit organizations, dinners, and award ceremonies. It's all free publicity. How about constituent service? Incumbents are able to win supporters by delivering solutions for their constituents' issues and concerns. It's simple. Just answer the calls coming into City Hall. That small act of responsiveness alone carries huge weight, and the constituents, then they tell their other friends that the mayor helped them. How about long-term continuity in the mayor's office? An interim-only approach is incredibly short-sighted. We do not need to put our party into a holding pattern. We need strategy for November. That strategic decision is, in my opinion, the power of incumbency. Concepts. Let me tell you a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Milford. My mom worked her entire career at Milford Hospital. My children, they attended Milford schools and participated in local sports. I coached in Little League and youth hockey. I participate in a women's golf league with over 120 women at the Orchards. And I'm an avid kickball player. I was hoping they'd do that. And from that, I've got terrific friends. I'm also only one of 2 women who umpire in the Milford Umpire Association. I'm known in our community. I am a team player who played ice hockey growing up at a time when girls' teams were just getting started, so I played with the boys. My dad was my biggest advocate, but he too was faced with the pressure from others that I was taking a place away from their son. There was a belief that I was playing for fun, but the boys were playing for a position on a high school or college. I pushed this glass ceiling with all my might. Like the boys, I attended a Taft school, and I played hockey. I attended Boston College, and I played hockey. One of my favorite stories is when a youth hockey team who got the spot on the A team, because he was a boy, recently told both my children that I was a better goalie than he was, and he knew it, and everyone knew it. And that felt really good. But when he told my daughter to keep playing hockey and never yield to a boy, that was powerful. Now, my political career. I was elected to the Board of Alders in 2005. I won the second Democratic seat in the 4th District that had been held by 2 Republicans for many years. I did this through hard work and walking door to door. Through the experience of being an alder, I have learned the budget process, including a detailed understanding of the needs of each department. Almost as important as this foundational experience as alder is my work as deputy registrar and now elected registrar. Mayor Blake introduced roundtable meetings with department heads prior to COVID, and that allowed me to meet face-to-face and hear on a monthly basis what department heads were facing, both their struggles and their successes. But this also allowed us to get to know each other better. We all know that the pre-meeting and post-meeting discussions are where people gain more respect and camaraderie with one another. Therefore, as a current department head, I will be able to transition to the role of mayor in a cohesive way, with smooth continuity that will put both department heads and all the citizens of Milford at ease. I ran for the position of mayor in 2007. I believe we as Democrats should always give the people a choice when they vote. And although a well-known incumbent was not beatable in 2007, it did not stop me from walking, talking, raising money, and campaigning on a daily basis.
You did a great job.
I walked alone. Thank you. I walked alone, and I walked with our slate of candidates. And it was that year when we won back majorities on all elected boards. I am very proud of my hard work, and in my speech at the end of election night in 2007, I said, this was never about the fate of Carrie Rowland. This was about giving Democrats back a voice in the city of Milford. I know that Ben has been popular with voters, and many candidates have benefited from his incumbency. And that is why I believe selecting me now will give us all the opportunity to build a new incumbency, putting us at an advantage in November. When I coached hockey, there were times we would be headed into a big game and the team would be nervous if we were missing one of our players. But I always said we battle with the players we have, not the players we wish we had. We must all do our jobs. We must all work hard in order to succeed. This is as true right now for our team. We heard that there were 10 other candidates who would come forward, but they didn't. We have heard that there will be a larger field of qualified candidates if we wait to select a candidate in July. This may be true, but it might not be true. It has been more than a month since we became aware that Mayor Blake will be stepping down. And here I am, the first person to say I can do this. I can lead our Democratic team. I know that Ben and Rich have worked very closely together over the last 20 years. I know that Ben loves this city very much. And I understand why he may feel his best friend and mentor makes him feel ready to leave, because that feels easy, safe, and comfortable. Transition and change is never easy, safe, nor comfortable. I believe there are many of us who are ready to serve Milford, and although it may be difficult and scary, I assure you, I am ready. I have been your registrar of voters since Antoinette Carey retired on March 7th, 2014. It is a very unique elected position because we don't campaign. However, if you're an election data nerd like me, you've looked at the election result numbers. You have seen that despite not having signs, not knocking doors, not phone calling, not attending neighborhood coffee meet and greet sessions, my vote totals citywide are very strong. I have built a reputation through my work on elections that resonates with candidates and electors alike. We work in a bipartisan way to ensure the elections are accurate, transparent, and trusted by every stakeholder. My work as registrar has renewed my faith in democracy and in the process we are in right now. This decision is to be made by each one of you. And I urge you to remember there is strength in numbers. Be brave and bold and thoughtful. Recognize that safe and familiar isn't always in the best interest of the greatest good or the greatest success. I believe with the power of incumbency we can build a strong Democratic team right now, tonight. Don't be fearful of disrupting our past successes, but vote now for future successes. The foundation of democracy is people having a voice. We are the DTC. The committee has been given a choice. We need to make this decision based on the unbiased information presented to you tonight. Please remember, when we think of our elected officials, we need only remember what Lincoln said. Democracy is government of the people, by the people, for the people. I ran and worked hard for our DTC team in 2007, and I will do that again if you give me the opportunity. We are the DTC team. Our team is 130 plus people strong. Each one of you is unique, with many different experiences and backgrounds, and it's this diversity and uniqueness that makes us strong. You have a decision and a voice and a vote. It is not scary. It is not divisive to have this decision play out. It's simply democracy. And if done correctly, it will make us stronger. I am brave, and I won't back down. So I'm asking you to be brave with me, and strong, in both your head and your heart. I'm ready to lead, I'm ready to raise money, and I'm ready to campaign. Let's get to work.
there any questions for Gary? If you have questions, just queue up behind the microphone.
No questions? Okay, Patrick, good.
How do you feel about the kind of decisions you might have to make that might have to be tough? I mean, what if you had a decision where you had to choose between two options that were not the best, but not horrible? Something like that.
Well, I think that I would revert to my sportsmanship. So in everything that I do it by the rule. I did that playing hockey. I did that playing softball, lacrosse, golf. I mean, there's no, Rich knows this, there's no better sport than golf to be, when nobody sees you, you don't kick the ball out from under the tree, right? So I think I would lean on that. I'd go to the rule book, I'd make the best decision that I could.
Within the rules.
Within the rules.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have you run for office before, and if so, what were the results? I mean, not just the job you hold now, but for mayor or something similar.
Yep, so in 2005, I ran for alderman. Some of the people in our town committee told me to stop working so hard. I was out every weekend knocking on door to door. They said, you'll never win. And thanks to Phil Petro, he dragged me out door to door, and I held the list. And we walked up to a door that wasn't on the list. And I said, Phil, it's not on the list. It's not on the list. He said, sorry, come on. We walked up the door, and he, at the loudest knock I've ever heard, my heart started to pound. What are we doing? And he said, Peter, what are you doing? You watching the Jets in there? It was Peter Vita, the person I was running against. And he made Peter come to the door. And he said, Peter, I want you to meet the girl that's going to beat you. My heart's pounding, just telling the story 20 years later. And we walked away, and I'm like, why did we do that? And he said, don't ever be afraid to tell somebody what you want or what you're going to do. It was a pretty valuable lesson to not be afraid of your opponents and things that are scary. So I won that seat through hard work. In 2007, I ran against Jim Riccitelli, very well-known, long-standing incumbent mayor, well-liked, very much like Ben. And I didn't win, but I did the best that any other mayor had done against him in a long time. And like I said, all the other candidates won. So I didn't win, but the team won. And those are my two election experiences up until running for registrar.
Is your percentage you got?
Oh, I don't know them, I'm sorry. But I have the answer. I can get it out of the archives at my office and let you know. And we can look at my election as registrar voters numbers because those are very good too.
Hi, Carrie. I voted against you in 2007. I'm still a Republican, but I'm not.
I appreciate your honesty. We can still be friends.
Yes, so I'm not now. I was wondering if you could talk about how your role as the registrar of voters has prepared you for this position.
Well, I think the main thing is getting to know the department heads, working within the city elements. I think another important part is the budget process. I've had a lot of questions about, do you know the budget as well as Ben does? And I've sat through a lot of the hearings, what other departments presented and things like that. And although I may not know it line by line like Ben does in his head, I certainly have a budget book. I certainly review it every year. I put our budget together in conjunction with Deborah Fellenbaum. We're two department heads, unlike any other department. But I think the main thing is the integrity, the fact that we have to make sure that the public trusts our system. We have to be transparent. We can't be afraid to do our work right out there in the public eye. I think several of you that were here for the recount in the special election for judge of probate, saw firsthand how organized and transparent we are in our process. I think that carries well into the mayor's office. I think that's what the public wants to have in a mayor, somebody who's willing to do the work right out in public.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello. Hi. I received several emails from various people that are endorsing Rich Smith, who is another qualified candidate. But many of the emails imply that you will not be ready for day one. How do you respond to those concerns?
Well, I disagree. Like I said in my speech with Lincoln, government for the people, by the people, of the people, I think we're all qualified to run and hold elective office. Will I have to work harder to make sure I know what's going on on a daily basis and what has to be planned for going forward, weeks away, months away? Of course, but I'm ready. I'm ready for that challenge. I'm ready to hit the ground running. I'm ready to lean on the experts, the department heads. I'm ready for the aldermen to work with me and to find ways that we can move forward together and do great things for our city, like Ben has done for 12 years. You're welcome.
Hey, Carrie. Oh, it's wonderful seeing you out here. Very, very nice. I think you're ready. What? And I love Rich. Back when I was in the chair, it's great. I did it again. You did a great job. So thank you. And we ran back down in front of your house.
Can you speak
I
into
want
the
to
mic?
know, what's the challenge? Looking forward, Milford where it is. What's the challenge that you see faces in Milford? And why are you uniquely gifted to address that challenge?
Wow. Well,
Yeah, easy question, right?
Yeah, that's a deep one. And
Yeah.
One of the things, I think Ben has done so many great things for us. And I just want to carry on that work. And I want to make sure that the departments are getting the things they need to maintain the great work that Ben has done. So I want to sort of get buy-in, and I want to find out. I think that's the benefit of a new mayor, is you get to listen a lot initially, and you get to maybe reprioritize things that will help move us forward as a community. And one of the things, we joke in our office, because Deborah doesn't like meetings, and I like meetings. I like the conversation. I like to hear the feedback and get different ways and different approaches to things so that we can find the best way. And so I think that's what I want to bring is sort of an open door policy and a willingness to really hear what are the big concerns out in our community and how can we address them together. I hope that answers your question.
You're a consensus builder.
That's my hope. All right. I think you're on, Rich. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Carrie. And now, Rich Smith.
Nice job, Terry. I'm not actually the one that brought Terry into politics. Right when I called, what was it called, the Institute? New Standard Institute, and talked to Tessa, who had been at some event. She said, no, we don't want to run for office, but we will put somebody on the phone, and that's when we met. And I was there with you through the mayoral campaign. When I got tough, I remember meeting you on weekends to kind of buoy your spirits when it got difficult. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks. I don't play pickleball, but I hear great things about it. And I do want to play someday. Does that get me like half an applause? pickleball net, so if you can adjust tennis nets automatically with some device, he's always up to something. So anyway, thanks for coming out tonight. Many of you in this room I know, and many I don't recognize. I'd like to look at tonight really as me telling you a little bit about myself, and then you decide if the Milford Town Committee and the city can use my services. If what I provide, what I offer you is something you need, or you think would serve our community there, then I'll give it 100%. And I'm in. As you know from Mayor Blake's endorsement, he mentioned that when approached with this opportunity, I first said no. Why would I say no? Because I've worked with Ben for 12 years, and I know how hard it is. As he has always said, friends come and go, enemies accumulate. And when you're mayor, you're going to make tough choices every day. So, as I may have told you in an email I sent out, I've worked with Ben closely. I remember being on a conference call with him and President Obama during the Sandy crisis, or when the Board of Ed was picketing because we were changing healthcare providers, or when we suffered a tragedy in the loss of a high school girl, sitting down to kind of capture our sentiments, capture the mayor's sentiments. And his trust in me comes from experience. Terry mentioned our friendship, and I was a mentor. But Ben loves the city a lot more than my friendship is, and he would not recommend me, endorse me, or ask me to do this because I was his friend. He asked because he felt that I was the most qualified person to do it. Let's talk about incumbency a little bit, because I understand the arguments. As a political science major, I've written about the power of incumbency. Studied under a great political scientist called David Mayo, who was famous for a theory called vanishing margins, which was just about that. It was about the fact that these congressional races are not even close anymore. And as Kerry rightfully pointed out, it's because of money, it's because of staff, a lot of things that result in a high re-election rate. They get campaigned, their face gets out there, they have staff, they have money. I don't know if that applies here for a 5-month run. An incumbency can be good if things go well. Incumbency can come back and bite you if things go sideways. And we face some tough times now. We face the reality that Ben is leaving, and as the guy who's been chairman of the Democratic Party, or had been for 18 years, I know very well the effect that his popularity had on our undertaking. We would not have 2 aldermen season first if it wasn't for that. We wouldn't have the supermajorities of that. And we're at risk of losing some of that. We need sharp campaigning. When I left the chairmanship, we had over $30,000 in our budget. That will help. But anyway, let me tell you a little bit about me. I grew up in Milford, went to K Avenue, then to Jonathan Law. I studied political science at Yale University, where I graduated with distinction. While there, I worked closely with Alan Gerber and Don Green, 2 famous political scientists, doing field work. What we did was we measured the effect of negative direct mail on voter turnout. These guys were into being able to predict and measure the effect of certain stimuli on voter turnout, voter behavior. I studied public policy and philosophy at Trinity College, where I had the honor of having one of my international relations papers sent to Anthony Lake, who was the national security advisor at the time. Despite my training in political science and social sciences, I chose a career in the private sector in technology. I had a family to provide for, and politics wasn't a reliable source of income. Over the years, I've had the good fortune to work in an executive position for such companies as Dun & Bradstreet, PepsiCo, MassMutual, The Hartford, AT&T. During my career, I've been responsible for varying size organizations. During these years, I studied organizational theory, was sponsored to attend an elite leadership program in New York City for 9 months. It's a strange combination of political science and technology together. One of the executives at AT&T saw an opportunity for that, and AT&T put me on the road to go speak to regulatory agencies across the country and even serve as a witness on behalf of my company in litigation. I know we have a lot of new people on the DTC, but many members during my 18 years as chairman will remember that even before I was chairman, at every meeting I would get up and remind everyone why we're Democrats. You know, some people roll their eyes. I don't know, here he goes again. But people like even that mom would say that she came out for that part of the program. I remember before I was chairman getting up and talk about why we're Democrats, the ideals that we embrace. And one of the senior members of the DPC got up and said, "Mr. Chairman," I wasn't chairman at the time, "this is all well and good, but we have elections to win." To which I replied, "But if we don't know what we stand for, why are we running?" We need to remember that we share arguably ideals. We stand with a belief and a commitment in justice. That a just society is one that leaves no one behind. That in the richest country in history, we cannot allow children to go hungry or seniors to go without medical care. When so many in this country have so much. We believe that we are better as an inclusive and diverse and tolerant society. We see an active role for government to hold back some of the dangerous tendencies of unbridled laissez-faire. Because Adam Smith's invisible hand is not famous for feeding the poor. And that's what unites us as Democrats. Now, how often do we deal with that at the local level? Someone says, "Come on, this is about picking up garbage." But this is where it begins. This is where our shared beliefs begin as Democrats. This is what brings us out to meetings. This is what makes us work for our local candidates, our state candidates, and our national candidates. I've dedicated my life to promoting this party and those principles. I started working on campaigns when I was 17, and have worked or managed campaigns every single year, without exception, for the last 31 years. I've never listened. I worked with Mayor Blake these last 12 years, working on issues, writing press releases, brainstorming, all of which prepared me for the role that I'm here today to offer my services for. I had the fortune of working for Dan Loy and Ned Lamont in their gubernatorial races. Both asked me to go on the road for them and speak on their behalf, which I was honored. As some of you know, I was actually Ned Lamont's treasurer. My relationship with the governor certainly doesn't hurt Milford. He'll come by to visit, play golf, and when I call, he picks up the phone. Actually, one of the reasons Ned ran, he'll tell you, my brother will tell you that during freshman orientation, the governor was on the phone with all the new state legislators, and he introduced himself as Frank Smith. You don't know me, but you know my brother Richard. He stopped the conversation and said, I was out getting pizza one night, and your brother called me. And I said, Dad, we need you to run for governor. And he said, what are you talking about? I was on my way to Democratic headquarters. This was 2019 or 17. Dan Moy was retiring, and the Democrats were in a bad position. And I said, here's why, Ned. Because the Republicans like you because you're rich. And the Democrats like you because you were opposed to the Afghan war. I think he could sell even in an unfavorable Democratic environment. So he said, let me think about it. I'll see you after the holidays. He came down, met me here, and got into the race. And the rest is history. He asked me to serve as his treasurer. Why am I here tonight? I stepped down just a year ago as chairman. And I'm, to be honest with you, I'm kind of enjoying the time away after 18 years as chairman and 31 years of running campaigns. But the mayor called and asked me to seriously consider stepping up to complete his term. And I respected that because it was his term. This term that we're looking to complete, he won the votes for. So as I told you, I said no, and then we had dinner one night, and I went home to my wife, and I said, I'm thinking about it. She looked at me like she often does, like I had two heads, and now I'm here. If you know Ben, you know his unqualified love for the city. And as I said earlier, he wouldn't have recommended me if he didn't believe I was the right person. And I could step in day one. Over the past few weeks, people have come up to me and said, you got to distance yourself from the mayor. You got to distance yourself. People see you as a rubber stamp for the mayor. Well, I don't distance myself from friends. And I don't take lightly the fact that if it wasn't for Ben's success, many of you elected officials in this room wouldn't be elected. And I'm telling you that from experience. There's no one in this room that has more electoral experience in this town than I do. And I don't say that to boast, I say it as a fact. Well, Ben and I are close friends. We're different people. These same people say, people are afraid that I will be a rubber stamp. People who know us know that we have bashed heads on a lot of issues. Without going into all of them. Building the police station. We still think it's wrong. Some Board of Ed issues. The aldermen in the room know I appealed for a raise for the police chief for a number of years. He didn't agree with it. He convinced the Democratic caucus not to agree with it. But he's the mayor and I respected that. But I'm my own person. Always have been. And you can count on that autonomy. My organizational experience from living in the corporate world, my campaign experience from running campaigns for 31 years, my shoulder-to-shoulder work with the mayor for the last 12, my understanding of politics, campaigning. If somebody said to me, well, you're a behind-the-scenes kind of party guy, you can't separate politics from the office. Party guy being the Democratic Party, not like a party guy. You have to always be on your toes. You have to be thinking about perception. But you have to follow your conscience, even when it's not popular. And that's something I feel Ben has done. I respect the job he did. I'm honored to have gotten his endorsement. The endorsement of our city clerk, our state senator, our former state senator or state representative, board chairs, 7 of the 10 aldermen, I was saying 8 of the dead. And I don't think they're supporting me because I'm pretty. Wow. I think they're supporting me because these are the folks that know governing what it takes and know me enough to know that my qualifications align at this critical time. Finish the term and allow our party to decide on its slate in July. Carrie, who I have a lot of respect for, and I told her when we got there, I said, you did a good job, she worked hard. Talks about the power of incumbency. But we do not, we cannot anoint a candidate for the fall until we have a convention in July. And she's right, I've heard people, I heard from a lot of people that were interested in wanting to run for this spot tonight.
Where are they?
A lot of people. But it's just airing out. I don't know how many people show up for July. But it certainly gives the party time to ensure that we pick the best, most qualified candidate. I stepped in and helped us through the budget process with my good friends from the Republican Party standing in the back, Ray Vitale and Anthony Giannatasio, and allow our candidate at the July convention to start fresh, kick off a rigorous and hard-working campaign with our under-ticket, and take us into November. It's going to be harder this year. And again, I know. So I ask for your consideration based upon my qualifications, and even people who aren't supporting me tonight. They said to me, there's no question, your CV shows that you're more qualified. And what that means is just my political background, my experience with the mayor, my organizational exposure, and the fact that I've been dedicated to this party. I didn't fall off the earth. I never went away. 31 years fighting for the Democratic Party, standing up with public comments to defend the party and defend our folks. Not always easy. It's some of the tough work. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope my experience, my dedication, my education, and my working relationship with the mayor qualify me in your minds to say, yeah, let Rich take the rest of this term while we build a strong ticket in July. And I'll stick around. I'll stick around to help run those campaigns and make sure we hold on to our majorities. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you. Any questions?
I just, I know of your experience in the time that you've worked since I've been in the DTC. And I just want to know, regardless of who wins tonight, will you still be supportive in November with everyone?
I'm not always proud to say that I've never voted for anyone who's not a Democrat, because it sounds mindless. But it just so happens that our party does wield better candidates. So yes, I will always be supportive. I left back in March tired from 31 years of campaigning, not just undertaking campaigns, 26, 27 people, plus the mayors in the city clerk's race, plus I've worked on 2 of Ben Gettinger's in the last 2 years. But I have a second wind, and that's why I'm here tonight. I'll never turn my back on the Democratic Party. It's in my bones.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hi, Kelly Miller. Can you tell everyone here, I think they may know, but when you started as a DTC, how many state and city officials were Democrat, and when you left, how many state and city officials were held in Democratic seats?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Am I talking about Berkshire here somewhere? There it is. I went to see Bob when I was considering stepping up to be town chair. And it really was kind of a dire environment. We had bare minimum. We had 5 seats on the board. I think at one point we had 1 or 2 Board of Ed. I don't remember the exact numbers, but as Gail said in her email to the town committee the other day, we were in the political desert. And it was a formidable undertaking that I wasn't convinced that I would be able to overcome. People were saying it's a Republican town. Yet I looked at the numbers and I thought it doesn't need to be. The Republicans were strong because they had 2 solid mayoral candidates. They had Fred Wisman for 10 years and then Jimmy. Both of whom I have the utmost respect for. But nonetheless, the challenge was formidable. When I left, we had all we could have on the board vote, a supermajority of 10. That's all the charter allows us. A 9-1 Board of Education, a 10-0 planning and zoning board. We had the state senate, the 118th. We had the city clerk and the mayor's office. So there's not much missing from that list. And I'll be honest with you, I thought, get out now. Because it's hard to stay at the top of the mountain. No matter what you do, voters are fickle. And I'm satisfied that I had done what I had come to do. Thank you for the question.
In the email you sent to the DTC, there was one phrase that really stuck out to me, as you refer to this as a risky transition. Could you delineate what you feel are the risks possible in this transition?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's the way I put it in the email. But I think there is, because so much of who we are now has relied upon, either consciously or otherwise, Ben's popularity. And we pull that out, just like the Republicans with Jimmy Ricciatelli. When he left the political landscape, they didn't really have somebody strong like Jimmy or Fred Wisman. When they went from Fred to Jimmy, it was a great transition for them. It's risky because we're going to be tested, because we don't have Ben for 11 years. When he goes into an all-diplomatic meeting or into a caucus, he has great command of the facts. He's lived it. We're going to now be put in the limelight, and we're going to be tested. And we're going to have to try harder for electoral success. We relied on this coattails. Me, especially as the campaign manager, there was a certain number of votes we kind of knew we'd get because people love Ben. They love the tax cuts. I'd be out to dinner with them. People were buying us wine, and he was popular. Not always as popular, within his administration, because he had to make tough choices. But it's risky because it's a fundamental change in the profile of our party. So we need to handle it carefully, with consideration of where our vulnerabilities are. So it's going to be tough to keep our majorities. It's going to be tough to hold on to City Hall, especially if they run something as popular as Tony Giudittazio in the back of the room. So anyway, that's why it's risky, because kind of our safety net's being pulled out from under us. So we've got to rethink it, right? We've got to rethink our strategy. We've got to have a solid lineup of candidates. Not always easy to do. People are not as eager to get involved for elected office as they were when I was much younger. The reason I met Carrie was because as chairman, I was cold calling people 2 days before the convention. We didn't have enough candidates. And who owns that? I did. I'm calling people up to say, hey, I saw your name somewhere. Do you want to run for office? So those are some of the risks. Some of the safety net has been taken out. So we have to be careful. Thank you for the question.
So you say you don't want me to understand, and I respect that. So,
just give me your name.
Michael Adams.
Hey, Mike.
So I guess what would you do different if you don't want to be a rubber stamp?
Well, I think for myself, as somebody who's educated, developed a critical mind, I think even the mayor will tell you, I never take things at face value, especially being a philosophy student or studying philosophy. You can always talk yourself out of any position you take. You end up like Plato did, saying, I don't really believe in anything, just I know what I don't know. So there's no inclination to be a rubber stamp. I mean, that term's used, I'm not even sure what it means. But I would expect me to make my own decisions. In part with decisions he's made in the past. I think I could do a lot to maybe warm up the climate. But anybody that knows me knows that I'm an independent thinker. And I will always make decisions based upon my reasoning, which is usually pretty exhaustive. Sometimes it will fall. Thank you for the question.
I didn't introduce myself before, Diane.
Hey,
Thanks for your voicemail. Sorry to get back to you.
That's okay.
So I have a two-part question, because I know we're only supposed to ask one. So maybe. All right. So it's very clear that Carrie wants to take this position now and then run for mayor. So my question to you is, do you also want to do the same thing? Are you planning to run for mayor, if you take this position now? And then part B is, if you are here as an acting mayor and choose not to run for mayor, would you then be, based on the experience that you're talking about, be stepping back in as the chair of the DTC?
Both good questions. So, in my email, I mentioned, because people say, well, you're not going to run in November. And I actually thought that was a refreshing way, that it would be refreshing to say, here's a guy who's not doing it because he has aspirations of a career in politics. So why am I doing it? Why would I step up and put myself through this? I was in Miami this morning, I flew home for this. That's been a few weeks now. I'm here because I care about the Democratic Party, I care about the city, and the mayor asked me to complete his term. Not because I want to be mayor, but what I said in my email was, I would decide in July, depending on the quality of the candidates. If we don't have a strong candidate that I think can win in November, then I care enough about the town committee that I can put my name in. I would hope, however, that we fielded somebody better than me. So I put an asterisk next to the idea that I wouldn't run. I'd rather not. And I'd rather then use my time in this office to promote our candidate. And I have every confidence in Karen. Worked closely with her for years. We've been friends. She shares her golf stories with me. And if she's the candidate in July, I would certainly work on her campaign and help her get elected. The second question is, would I go away or would I come on as chair? Well, we already have a chair. I always said, anybody that wants to be chairman of the Democratic Town Committee is not qualified. How is that? Because you've got to be stupid to want that. You've got to be a priest or therapist. You've got to be everything. And think about this. How many Republican town chairs did I go through in my time as chair? About 14. I'm not exaggerating. In the old days when I started, it was maybe Peter Spaltoff, I forget. Joe, No, I used to come for drinks with them, and I still consider these guys my friends. Leave politics at the door. It hasn't gotten ugly like that here. But we have a chairman. But it doesn't stop me from doing the work and running the campaigns as I have for the last 31 years. I do think that institutional knowledge is critical. And one of the things that I did a couple of years ago was I said, we need to start bringing more young people into the Democratic Party. Yes. We need a succession plan.
Carrie.
I get this in the corporate world, right?
That's Carrie.
We need a succession plan. We need some young people. And I was told that the next day, somebody at the DTC went to one of our senior-most members, Greta Stanford, God rest her soul, and told her I was trying to get rid of all the old people. That's just how you deal with this chick. No matter what you do, somebody has a bomb. But I held the party together for 18 years.
Thank you.
No major blow-ups. We had our disagreements, but we worked through them. We were a family. And I'm proud that I was able to create that culture. Well, I went through 13 or 14 Republican townships. And I stepped down when I felt like my work had been done. Any other questions?
Yep.
I was trying to top the two-part question, but I have a three-part question. I've been thinking of other questions. One was, Miami's great. If you are the one in City Hall, will you feel comfortable sticking around instead of Miami?
Absolutely.
That was kind of silly.
That was an easy
So
one.
that was the easy one right now. So, let's see. So, let's see. Another one was, we know your electoral experience and all that. What percentage of the mayor's job would you say requires, though, that skill set of winning elections?
Well, it's not just winning elections. My experience is also working within the day-to-day of being mayor. So I think that experience is 100%. It's not just winning elections. That's a small part of it. That's a very small part of it. I think my understanding of organizational structure and working in organizations and working with the mayor shoulder to shoulder through difficult times, through challenges for 11 or 12 years, provided me a unique perspective and understanding of the job. And that's 100%.
Could you elaborate on your professional career? What types of responsibilities you've had in your professional career and careers in other companies that are related to, like, how many people you supervise, how many programs you oversee, that type of stuff. Because again, I'm very familiar with how it works.
Yeah.
So like supervisory type.
Yeah.
Juggling all those balls, all those departments.
Right. So I've had groups as large as probably 60 or 70 as an executive in the telecom industry, having to make purchases in software. Right now I work in corporate security, cyber security. I think the most important thing is understanding organizational structure. And I'll tell you why that's sometimes overlooked. You need to have people that report to you and people that report to them that you trust. You cannot micromanage. You can't be reaching down to the rank and file. Any more than you really can as town chair. You've got to be able to make decisions. And I've had to do that in my professional career. And I've had to provide well-reasoned answers to questions. And I think over time, I've also taught my folks how to ask questions. Being able to ask the question, anticipate the question. I've had a lot of opportunity to do that in the private sector, and that's why I've been very successful there. Corporate world's hard to survive, and I've been in it for 40-something years, and have had what most would say was a great deal of success. But I think my biggest takeaway to bring to this job is my communication skills, which you have to be good at. my organizational skills, and my ability to also turn to people. You know, in the old days, we go, everybody should be able to do X and Y, and really my philosophy about management is find what they like to do, find what they do well, and then put them in that. That's how we leverage people's skill sets. And I've been very successful in doing that as well.
I know that I've been very successful in engaging both Democrats and Republicans, and what everyone appreciates all he's done for Milford. In the case that you are acting mayor during this period, and you decide you kind of like it, you want to maybe run in November, what would you say? Would you say you're maybe like how well liked you are with Democrats and Republicans, and how that might affect holding the middle seat, like you versus Kerry, say, like the Republicans like better, would you say?
They probably don't like me much because I've been on the other side as their opponent. But now they have to admit I've been quiet for the last 10 years because they haven't had a fight. You know, Chris Alios goes, you gotta get him, you gotta be nice, you gotta go, no, Chris, when you're in the minority, you gotta be fighting with their heels, that's your job. So, I don't know who they like more. There's a few in the back. I don't know if it's better to be, as Machiavelli would ask, is it better to be longer or fewer? Right? I'm not sure which, but, so I don't know who they like best, if that's your question.
Yeah. And I just heard something that I heard
Wait,
something.
is this part three?
This is actually, yeah, sorry. Last thing, sorry. Okay. I mean, okay. This is not me. I heard something back here when there was one thing you were speaking to, and I heard a dissenting voice. That person may not feel comfortable asking their question or like bringing up that point. I wanted to just speak to whoever's voice I heard saying something about the July, we have to have something in July, whatever. And I heard a voice say not true. If that person wants to, okay, I'm just saying.
I didn't hear
Did
it.
anybody else hear something?
At the convention.
I heard something. Okay, here's something.
That was about a convention.
Put somebody on the spot.
Well, Sarah, I think if someone has a question,
Yeah.
they don't need to, they can get up and ask a question. I hope I'm not intimidating, I hope I'm welcome here.
Okay.
But I appreciate your concern.
So is there any point of
No, I appreciate
that needed to be brought up or clarified? Thank you for your patience.
all that. What else we got?
There. Thank you.
What did I forget?
We'll now open up nominations. The purpose of a nomination to recommend to fill the vacancy in the office, the anticipated vacancy in the office of Milford Mayor. The purpose of the nomination, recognize Mayor Bentley.
Good evening, fellow Democrats. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Tonight we are here to help determine who will be the next Milford mayor. It is a job that I know well. It's a job that I have lived and breathed for almost 12 years now. And for that entire period of time, this Democratic Town Committee has been by my side through thick and thin. You folks have supported me as I've supported you right back. And we've allowed the city of Milford to thrive. A couple people asked me tonight when I expected the legislature to act on the governor's nomination, when I expected to make the ultimate decision to step down from the position of Milford mayor. And I don't know. What I do know is that I have been and that I will be
doing everything possible, working as hard as I can to make sure that the transition is as smooth and as seamless as possible, to make sure that the city of Milford, that our community, and that our party are well positioned. But when I leave, I also know, and it's been talked about tonight, that we need somebody who can step in on day one, who knows this city, who is able to understand the job of mayor intimately, who understands all those duties and responsibilities that come with this position. And without reservation, without hesitation, Rich Smith is that person. Out of everyone in this entire, not just room, not just city, this entire world, Rich Smith is that person. He knows the city inside and out. For the past 12 years, on a daily basis, we discuss those city issues, and we talk about how to make Milford a better place. He's a person that I sought counsel and advice, and he never steers me wrong, or only a few times when we've disagreed, but he is that person that I know will bring a steadiness and stability to the city that will allow the Democratic Party to be well positioned for November, and also for our community to continue to find those successes that we have. And we're all here because, as Richard mentioned and Carrie had mentioned, we are all part of this Democratic family. Families disagree. Tonight, there's a lot of different thoughts and opinions and positions, but at the end of the day, we are a lot more the same than we are different. What unites us is a lot stronger than divides us. And there's been discussion that where we are today is in large part because, at least for the majority of my time as mayor for the past 12 years, the person that brought us all together, this spirited, passionate group of folks, was Rich Smith. He, for the last 12 years, 18 years as chair, made us all sing off of the same song sheet. He brought all of these disparate views together and found the commonality that we needed in order to prove to the voters of Milford that we were deserving each November of their trust. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the unity of the community, for this town committee in the city, I think it's my good honor to nominate Richard Smith to be the Democratic Party's recommendation for Democratic mayor. He is my choice to fill the remainder of my term. I know that he will make us all proud.
For the purposes of the second, Alderman Colin Moore.
Good evening. I second the nomination for Richard Smith to serve out the mayor's unfinished term. I understand that everyone isn't going to believe what I believe, but I embrace our differences and I respect the beauty of uniqueness of our individualism. But I think that there are so many of us here tonight because we recognize that this is an important decision for our city. And I hope that we can all agree that our decision should be based on what's best for the city first, and for the DTC second. I also believe that decisions should be based on data. And I will start with the endorsements that Rich has received from our top elected officials, including Mayor Ben Blake, City Clerk Karen Fortunati, former Boulder State Senator Gail Schlossberg, and our current State Senator James Maroney, who is a lucky guy tonight because he got to see the Yukon Huskies win. But having said that, these individuals are the voices of our experienced leaders. They are out there governing, and what they have spoken speaks loudly. They have addressed the two critical points in reference to that we should put our most qualified person to lead us in position now, and we should put our most qualified person in July to lead us into November. Their viewpoints should matter as we make our choice here tonight. Rich has also earned the respect and admiration of the DTC as the chair in our meeting for the past 18 years. Last year, we voted him, this very body voted him as Democrat of the Year. Most of us are here or in elected positions because of Rich's leadership. Any campaign strategy you know or may have utilized likely came from Rich. And I think Carrie would even acknowledge that her run for this nomination, she learned from the best, which is Rich. The point is, leaders empower us. They help us grow and help us realize our potential. Rich's leadership, combined with the DTC effort, has essentially turned a Republican city into a Democratic city, step by step. This is exactly why he was honored with this award. This award is Democrat of the Year, and his achievement in turning the city. Two should matter as we make our choice here tonight. I'd like to paraphrase a quote that Michelle Obama said about being a leader. And she said that being a leader doesn't change you, but rather it reveals who you are. And we have seen firsthand, we objectively know what we have in Rich as a leader. We know he can see the bigger picture. We know he understands the moving parts, and he knows how to navigate. He has clarity, and he steers away from the chaos. He has patience, he plans, he takes a methodical approach, and he has the ability to handle complex and often competing issues. He has the ability to think thoroughly and quickly on his feet. And he has the confidence in his decision-making because, as he mentioned, he probably overthinks it too much, so by the time he reaches it, he is comfortable with where he has arrived, even if it is unpopular. These are the things we know. These are the things we all have seen. And this too should matter as we make our choice here tonight. Lastly, I'd like to shift from the data that I presented to focus a little bit on the goodness and the kindness and the decency of Rich in his everyday life. People turn to him at all different times, and he in turn turns to others. I have two examples, although there are many to choose. But one is that people have turned to him for career counseling, asking Rich about career opportunities, and Rich has taken the time to sit down, ask questions and help give his perspective on the direction that one should take. The other is him turning to others. There was a situation where he was compelled to stop and offer assistance to a stranded vehicle that was on the highway in a dark night in a not so well lit and a not so heavy travel stretch of the highway during a rainstorm. And he was in Italy when he did this, so he pulled over along with his wife Michelle, who were both compelled to help this individual. Both these stories speak to the generosity and the decency that Rich has in his heart, as well as he has the experience and the talent to lead us forward. I understand my message may not be heard by some in the room, but we do have the data to drive our decision and to do what's best for the people of Milford. So in closing, I know your choice tonight will reveal who you are, and the outcome tonight will reveal who we are as a DTC going forward.
Are there any other nominations?
Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Rowland. I joined the Democratic Town Committee in the 4th District a little over a year ago. I wanted to join because I'm studying social work at Southern, and it is part of the professional responsibilities of a social worker to be informed about public policy and to advocate for legislation which supports the clients we serve. I also joined because Carrie Rowland is my mom, and I was raised to see civic engagement as my personal responsibility as well. I'm a new face to many of you. There are a few of you who remember me as the 9-year-old holding the Vote for My Mom for Mayor sign. Many of your faces are new to me as well, although there are quite a few names that are familiar. I'll admit I probably pronounced them incorrectly, as I've read vote totals for the last 8 years. I do that because in the last meeting my mom said that election day workers are hard to come by. I can personally vouch that it is a very long day. However, this experience means that I'm able to speak to what it's like to work for Carrie Rowland, the Registrar of Voters. I was there when COVID hit, and she led the charge of interpreting the laws for absentee balloting, putting protocols in place to ensure an accurate and timely count of votes. I was also there when it rained this past election. Ballots got wet, tabulator got jammed, felt like everyone was in a little bit of a panic. However, it was with her prompt and decisive action that those votes were counted accurately and efficiently as well. Most importantly, it has been my experience working for her. She's the first one in a room to start moving tables, sit down and iron ballots that were mailed out with one too many folds, or to grab a pencil and a tally sheet and start hand counting ballots. In that way, I also know what it's like to work alongside Carrie Rowland. In my experience, it was towards the shared end goal of an honest election. But hopefully soon, it will also be under the shared goal of uniting our Democratic Town Committee and the City of Milford. Again, I recognize that she is my mom, but many of you who know her are very aware that she is intelligent, honest, and capable of stepping in to fill the soon-to-be vacant seat for mayor. However, it is her integrity which makes me so proud to call her my mom. She has shown us integrity in her administration of elections. She also instilled that value in me in her role as a parent. From a young age, we had an agreement. As long as I told the truth, no matter how difficult, she would always have my back. She would advocate on my behalf and empower me to do so for myself. I can promise you that as long as you tell her the truth and stand up for what's right, that you will experience in your work with her, as city employees, as aldermen, as board members, as town committee members, and as citizens, that she will have your back 100% as well. For those reasons, I would like to nominate Carrie Rowland. Thank you.
We have a nomination. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations?
Move the nomination to close.
So moved. We will proceed to a roll call vote. Secretary Kathy Lutz, will you take call and roll?
Because it's a full-town committee and not by district, it's alphabetical for the whole town committee. This is gathered from the district chairs and seems to have been agreed upon. And to avoid any, I already heard a threat about a challenge. I've asked NICA to take the vote with me. So we'll have 2 copies, and if anybody wants to do voice memo, we can do that. Michael Adams.
Here.
You vote, please.
You'll have to stand and say your
Rich Smith.
Julia Albrecht. Joseph Allen. Catherine Allen. Brian Anderson.
Good evening, everyone. I firmly believe that the party needs to move forward, and the city of Milford needs to move forward, and therefore my vote is for Carrie Rowland.
Dean Anderson. Matt Archiola. Alex Armstrong. Francis Armstrong.
Rich Smith.
Thomas Armstrong.
Rich Smith.
Ann Arnold.
Gary Rowland.
Ray Arnold.
While I will support her in July, I will.
Nancy Austin.
Rich Smith.
Sonia Bannon.
Point of order. Excuse me. This person and several others were elected and voted on to the 3rd district. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
My apologies.
This person and several others were voted on to the 3rd district on Tuesday night at a meeting that I believe was not properly noticed for a vote. I got 2 separate invitations to the meeting, and neither one of them said that we were voting on anybody on the committee.
We discussed this earlier. It's the decision of the chair to move forward with this list. Should anything need to be sorted out, we'll do so after the vote.
Somebody, point of order.
Sonia Bannon was the last vote.
Rich Smith.
Thank you. Steve Baranowski. Bruce Barrett.
Carrie Rowland.
John Barrett.
Carrie Rowland.
Nina Barrett.
Gary Rowland.
Patrick Barrett.
Carrie Rowland.
Ed Beatty.
Carrie Rowland.
Alan Beatty.
Carrie Rowland.
Jonathan Burcham.
Rich Smith.
Robert Burcham.
Rich Smith.
Ann Berman.
Sorry. Gary Rowland.
That Ann Berman is Carrie Rowland.
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure. Ann Blake. Benjamin Blake.
Rich Smith.
Tony Bonetti.
Carrie Rowland.
Ted Boynton.
Carrie Rowland.
Meg Brennan.
Rich Smith.
Brian Finch.
Madam Secretary, that person's been deemed ineligible.
Okay. Beth Oster. Sarah Bromley.
Carrie Rowland.
Susan Brown.
Gary Rowland.
Ann Carter.
Rich Smith.
Brandon Casey.
Rich Smith.
Jill Castagnoli. Colby Collier,
Rick Smith.
Dominic Cotton,
Gary Rollins.
Daniel Bedford,
Rick Smith.
Adam DeYoung,
Gary Rollins.
Rebellion Deborah,
Rebecca DeBrum is absent.
Jen Dennis,
Rich Smith.
Patty Johanny,
Gary Rowland.
Megan Doyle,
Gary Rowland.
Dan Drago, Joy Duva,
Gary Rowland.
Teresa Epi,
Gary Rowland.
Karen Fritsch, Laura Fucci,
Gary Rowland.
Mary Ann Galazzi, Ben Gettinger,
Rich Smith.
Frank Justino,
Rich Smith.
Susan Glennon, Marissa Gomes,
Gary Rowland.
Linda Gustafson, Greg Harlow,
Rich Smith.
Linda Hardiman, Rita Hennessy,
Gary Rowland.
Karina Hirsch,
Rich Smith.
Eden Hirsch,
Rich Smith.
Chris Height, Tracy Irby, Maggie Jensen, Steve Johnson,
Rich Smith.
Jake Joseph,
Gary Rollins.
Brian Callaghan,
Collegian.
Brian
Collegian,
Gary Rollins.
Margaret Kearney,
Gary Rowland.
Dora Quebec,
Gary Rowland.
Gerard Kumaran,
Gary Rollins.
Kate Langley,
Gary Rowland.
Sean Houston, Catherine Munce, Rich Smith, Sharon Brown,
Rich Smith.
James Maloney, Robert Masood, Kevin McGrath, Cynthia Myers, Richard Myers, Teddy Pincus, Kelly Miller,
Rich Smith.
John Moffitt,
Rich Smith.
Charles Montalbano,
Rich Smith.
Janet Montalbano,
Gary Rowland.
Carl Moore,
Gary Rowland.
Sandra Morgan,
Gary Rowland.
John Mortimer,
Rich Smith.
Howard Moran,
Rich Smith.
Emily Nolan,
Gary Rowland.
Mallory Nugent,
Rich Smith.
Nick Mikkel, Montana Caselli, Robert Caselli,
Rich Smith.
Nadine Powers,
Gary Rowland.
Michelle Parente,
Gary Crowley. Voting for Gary Rowland. Proud to associate with this history.
Warren Kowalski, Gary Bluchett,
Gary Rollins.
Una Petrowski,
Gary Rowland.
Kathleen Phelan, Nigel Phelps,
Gary Rowland.
Diane Pryor,
Gary Rowland.
Jim Quish, Betsy Radner,
Gary Rowland.
Justin Rosen,
Rich Smith.
Joanne Russo, Joni Russo, Emily Rowland,
Gary Rowland.
Terry Rowland,
Gary Rowland.
Chris Saley,
Rich Smith.
Aaron Sanner,
Rich Smith.
Robert Savvy.
Rich Smith.
MJ Shannon.
Rich Smith.
I know Schlossberg's neither of them are here. Caitlin Smith. Kathy Smith. Diane Smith. Frank Smith.
Rich Smith.
Megan Smith. Melissa Smith. Daniel Smith.
Rich Smith.
Michelle Smith. Peter Smith is absent. Rebecca Smith. Rich Smith.
Rich Smith.
And Sandra Smith.
Rich Smith.
Emily Sousa.
Rich Smith.
Frank Sousa.
Rich Smith.
Linda Stevenson.
Carrie Rowland.
Jessica Scram.
Rich Smith.
Anne Marie Sutton.
Carrie Rowland.
Anthony Sutton.
Registrar of Voters, Kerry Rowland.
Stacy Sutton. Charles Taylor.
Rich Smith.
Cynthia Twist.
Rich Smith.
Penny Vassilos.
Rich Smith.
Phil Vitro.
Rich Smith.
Janet Waldman. Carol Walker. John Williams. Ward Willis.
Richard Smith.
Cindy Wolf Boynton.
Carrie Rowland.
Toby Zabinski. Mark Zaharis. Jason Zimiello.
Rich Smith.
Should I call it right now? Natalia, I think that's our list.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call a point of order. I'd just like it to go on the record that 4th District member Janet Waldman, following the bylaws of the Democratic Town Committee, showed up tonight in person, as the bylaws said she did, to cast her vote, and her vote was denied. So I'd like to go on the record.
What? That's crazy.
I do disagree with you there. Her vote was not denied at the time of arrival. There had been no vote even called. We did not have candidates to be nominated. Our bylaws are quite clear when it comes to voting. Voting for this meeting is to occur in person via roll call. So I noticed when
That's not true. It's not.
Bylaws say you have to arrive in person. It does not say that it has to be a roll call vote. So, thank you so much.
Let's check that. Why don't we? I was told that if I showed up and couldn't stay, I could leave my vote. Okay. I wonder who that person wanted to vote for. Apparently that person who showed up and couldn't stay for some reason wanted to vote for Carrie and was denied. That's, feel free to share this, folks, because it's in City Hall. Should be a public meeting. It was not noticed publicly. Anyone could come. I mean, but nobody knew this was happening except for the Democratic Town Committee. So now I don't know if I should stop streaming or, I don't know. Maybe we'll have some clarification. Maybe I'll just keep rolling. Understand if you... Sorry. I'm sure One big happy family. Just like all families. So I don't blame anybody if you like take off and don't watch, but I think we're gonna keep rolling, just in case we get a ruling on that. Or well, also we obviously want to know the final tally and the results of this whole thing. You know, you sit here long enough, you're like, hey, why are we here again? No, just kidding. So whoever wins tonight is their name goes to the Board of Aldermen, who will then vote. And there's no such thing as an interim mayor, right? Like whoever is, you know, passes this bar tonight will most likely be approved and voted on by the Board of Aldermen, and that person would be our mayor until, or like when Mayor Blake has to leave. So a lot of this is not clear, and a lot of this doesn't like even people don't hear about it. So inside glimpse
Madam Secretary, we have results of
is public.
We do, Darrell Green, Terry Rowland, 52, Rich Smith, 59.
Well, that's very interesting.
At this point, I'll let the motion to adjourn.
Second, third, fourth, right? We're adjourning. Thanks, everybody. Good night.